Hi, everybody. Welcome to another English class here on verbling.com. My name is Lisa, and I'm one of the English teachers here at Verbling. And in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. I put the link to the document that we're going to be reading over there in the Verbling chat box. So if you want to go over there, you can open it. That's the link to the Google document where we're going to read. And here's the link to the original article from Bill Gates at gatenotes.com. So hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Anna, remind me where you live in Spain.
In Madrid.
Oh yeah, in Madrid. How's the weather? How's the winter?
Today it's horrible because
Really?
we have a yellow alert by winds.
Oh, really? Oh.
And it's raining with a lot of wind and it's
Wow.
awful.
Yeah, I'm looking at the forecast. Yeah, it says raining and maybe even snow. Does it snow?
Not because
No.
the temperature is high.
Too high. Okay. All right. Does it ever snow in Madrid? Has it? No.
This year only 2 weeks ago, but only a little in at night and during a few hours.
Oh, okay.
The mountain, yes, but in Madrid, city, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I just learned last year that there's a ski resort pretty close to Madrid.
Yes.
Have you ever been there?
No, because I've never ski.
Yeah, I like to ski, so I was interested in that because I only thought that in Spain to go skiing you had to go to the Pyrenees mountains, but
yes, it's the best place.
Yeah.
And in Granada too.
Oh, Granada too. Okay.
Yes, Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
Have you been in Spain?
Yes, I
remember you told me that.
Yeah, a very long time ago, when I was a high school student, I spent one school year studying in Spain, in Vitoria, in the northern part.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I've been back a couple of times, but not as much as I would like. So maybe now in the future, as my kids are getting older, they're teenagers now, so I have more freedom.
To travel. Do you speak Spanish then?
Yes.
Okay, very well.
Yes. I don't speak it as much as I used to because when I got back from Spain, then I finished school, and then I became a bilingual teacher. And so in California, I worked as a teacher, and I spoke Spanish pretty much every day. You know, we have a lot of Mexican students there. Yeah. But now I live in Washington, and the town where I live, there aren't very many Spanish-speaking people, so I don't use it as much, on a regular basis. Yeah. So, okay, well, I'm wondering where everybody is because the class was fully booked, and so you think people are going to show up, but I don't know what happens. So maybe I do know that sometimes if people are taking another class right before this one, sometimes if you're having a very interesting discussion or something, then it can be hard to end the class on time, and then it will take a few minutes for everybody to come in. So maybe that's going to happen. I don't know. Let's see. Adrian's joining us. Okay, people are coming in. They must have been somewhere else. All right, good, guys. Come on in. Hi, Adrian. Welcome. Hi, Lajek. Welcome. Yeah. So let me just tell people out there, if you're watching, if you want to join us, now would be a good time to join because we're going to get started reading the article. Of course, you can join a Verbling class at any time, so if you're busy, in the first 10, 15 minutes of the hour, that's okay. You can always join a class in the middle. You might have to wait your turn to talk or to read or something, but you can always join us. The classes do start on the hour, and we end, hopefully, by the end of the hour. And yeah, so if you have a membership and you want to join us, you can join us. If you don't have a membership and you would like to start joining Verbling classes, check it out. You can do the free 7-day trial. So that's a really good option for people who we say are on the fence. If you're on the fence, you don't know if you want to do it or not. You don't want to commit yet. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the reading. This is an article that I found on Bill Gates' website. He has a website where he writes about things that he's interested in. He has a foundation, a nonprofit foundation with him and his wife, and they do a lot of different charitable programs and a lot of research and development and stuff like that around the world, especially related to things like poverty and sanitation and different topics around the world, trying to help the world get better. And so anyways, he writes about that type of stuff and also books that he likes to read or he has read and that are good. So this one is really interesting, I thought, because it's a new way to create something that's very useful, which is drinking water. We also call that potable water. So if water is potable, then you can drink it. If it's not, then it's dirty. You can't drink the water. Don't drink it. Okay, so let's just get started. And if people join us, that's okay. And if they don't, that's okay too. And again, I'm sorry, my voice is still not 100% better. I keep talking and it's not getting better. So if I cough or something, I will mute myself. All right, this ingenious machine turns feces into drinking water by Bill Gates. Okay, I watched the piles of feces go up the conveyor belt and drop into a large bin. They made their way through the machine, getting boiled and treated. A few minutes later, I took a long taste of the end result, a glass of delicious drinking water. The occasion was a tour of a facility that burns human waste and produces water and electricity plus a little ash. I have visited lots of similar sites like power plants and paper mills. So when I heard about this one, it's part of the Gates Foundation's effort to improve sanitation in poor countries, I was eager to check it out. Okay, Lejik, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Okay. I watched the piles of feces go up the conveyor belt and drop into a large bin. They made their way through the machine, getting boiled and treated. A few minutes later, I took a long taste of the end result, a glass of delicious drinking water. The occasion was a tour of a facility that burns human waste and produces water and electricity, plus a little ash. I have visited lots of similar sites, like power plants and paper mills, so when I heard about this one, it's part of the Gates Foundation's effort to improve sanitation in poor countries. I was eager to check it out.
Good. My phone was ringing in the background, so I want to mute it. Okay, so let's just start with the title here. This ingenious machine. So something that is ingenious means like it's amazing, like somebody who is a genius created it. So it's very clever, very amazing, very cool, new, innovative. You can use all different types of words to describe this. And what it's doing is it's turning feces into. So the phrasal verb here is to turn something into something else. So feces is poop, and they're talking about human feces. So in English, of course, we have a lot of words to describe that, just like in other languages. Shit would be another word you're probably very familiar with, but that's a little bit more stronger word. You wouldn't use that when you're talking just to everyday people or children or something. So feces is the more proper word. So you're turning feces or poop into drinking water, which sounds crazy, but it's a new technology. Okay, so he's saying, I watched the piles of feces. So a pile is like a bunch. Like you have, when somebody goes to the bathroom, then you have a pile of feces. You can also have piles of other things, like little mountains of piles of toys, piles of leaves. You can use that to describe lots of things, not just feces. All right, so it's taking the feces, this is the description of what it looks like, up a conveyor belt. A conveyor belt is used like in factories, where it's how you move things along. It's like a belt, but it moves, it conveys things. So it moves the poop up, and then it drops it into a large bin. So a large bin is like a big waste bin or a big trash can or something like that. And then it gets boiled. When you boil the poop, it gets really hot, and that you boil water, for example, and it gets treated. So when we're talking about treatment plants, there are lots of different ways that waste gets treated, sometimes with chemicals or with heat, with fire, things like that. So, and then he said, I took a long taste. So a taste means he tried it. So the end result of this process is a clean glass, a glass of clean, delicious, tastes good, drinking water. So the occasion, the reason why he was there, why he was doing this, was because he was taking a tour of a facility, a place where they burn human waste. So again, this is another way you can describe feces, human feces. You can describe human waste. Of course, you can talk about animal waste, animal feces as well. And they produce, so they create water and electricity from the waste, and a little bit of ash. Ash is what you get after you burn something. So it's the leftover. Like if you burn some wood, then you have ashes in your fireplace. So of course, Bill Gates goes around the world. He visits lots of these similar sites, similar places, similar facilities, power plants where they make electricity, for example, or paper mills where they create paper or cardboard. But this was a different one. And so part of his foundation's efforts, one of their goals, is to improve sanitation, especially in poor countries. Sanitation is how clean it is. How do you get rid of waste? And how do you keep waterways clean, that type of thing. So sanitation. And so he was eager to check it out. Eager means very excited. He was really excited to check it out, to see what is happening. How are these people doing this? It sounds pretty amazing. The water tasted as good as any I've had out of a bottle. And having studied the engineering behind it, I would happily drink it every day. It's that safe. Why would anyone want to turn waste into drinking water and electricity? Because a shocking number of people, at least 2 billion, use latrines that aren't properly drained. Others simply defecate out in the open. The waste contaminates drinking water for millions of people, with horrific consequences. Diseases caused by poor sanitation kill some 700,000 children every year, and they prevent many more from fully developing mentally and physically. Okay, Anna.
The water tastes as good as any I've had out of a bottle, and having studied the engineering behind it, I could happily drink it every day. It's that safe. Why would anyone want to turn waste into drinking water and electricity? because a shocking number of people, at least 2 billion, use latrines that aren't properly drained. Others simply defecate out into the open. The waste contaminates drinking water for millions of people, with horrifying consequences. Disease caused by poor sanitation kill some 700,000 children every year, and they prevent many more from fully developing mentally and psychically.
Physically.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. All right, so it tasted good. So that's kind of surprising. It's really crazy to think, but he says it tasted as good as. So he's comparing that. So as good as any water that he's had out of a bottle. And then he says, and having studied the engineering behind it. This use here, behind it, means the engineering, the strategies, how the formulas, things like that. He studied why this would work, so he understands the engineering aspect of this process. So he would happily drink it every day because he understands how it works and that it's clean and safe when it comes out. But why would anybody want to do this? So he's saying there's a good reason why. A shocking number. Shocking means you can't believe it. So to modern westernized people, let's just say, there are lots of people who would be shocked to realize or to hear that 2 billion people are still using latrines. A latrine is a very primitive style bathroom where maybe you just have a hole in the ground and that's where you go to the bathroom. And so, of course, a lot of these latrines are not properly drained. So to drain means where does the water go? Where does the pee and the poop, where does it go? Usually in a modern home you have a toilet and you use a lot of water and you flush the toilet and it goes into some kind of sewage system, but that's not the case. And so they have problems with drainage. We call that drainage is the noun. Okay, so others, if they're not using latrines, they just defecate. So this is a verb. To defecate means to go poop. So to go to the bathroom and go poop. And some people are doing that just out in the open. So not even using a latrine, but just out in the field or somewhere like that. Peeing is okay. Guys do that a lot. They just go pee on a tree or something. But to defecate, that's different. That's not very safe or clean or sanitary. And what happens is when people are doing this, it contaminates the drinking water. So to contaminate water means you have something like feces in it, and of course you can't drink it. It's very unsafe, very unhealthy, and it has horrific or terrible, very bad consequences, results of that. So it causes disease, and even a lot of children die every year because of the contaminated water. And so if they don't die, if they get some kind of disease by contaminated water, this can prevent them from fully developing. So maybe as a young child, they get sick, and then maybe that harms their brain, so mentally maybe they can't learn as well or something, or even physically, which means in their body, maybe they have something wrong with, their physical body. If we can develop safe, affordable ways to get rid of human waste, we can prevent many of those deaths and help more children grow up healthy. Western toilets aren't the answer because they require a massive infrastructure of sewer lines and treatment plants that just isn't feasible in many poor countries. So a few years ago, our foundation put out a call for new solutions, I would say solutions. One idea is to reinvent the toilet, which I've written about before. Okay, Adrian. Hi, David. Go ahead, Adrian.
If we can develop safe,
affordable ways to get rid of human waste, we can prevent many of those deaths and help more children grow up healthy. Western toilets aren't the answer because they require a massive infrastructure of sewer lines and treatment plants. That just isn't feasible in many poor countries. So a few years ago, our foundation put out a call for new solutions. One idea is to reinvent the toilet, which I've written about before.
Okay, good. Okay, so of course, part of his foundation's efforts, what they want to do is to, solve this problem. So they want to be able to develop. To develop means to create, to figure out a way to do something different. So they want to create some new ways to have safe, affordable methods or ways. Affordable means it's cheap. They're dealing with what we call developing countries, so economies that are not very wealthy, so they don't have a lot of money to spend on this type of stuff. So it has to be affordable or cheap. And so they want to figure out how to get rid of human waste. So to get rid of something just means to dispose of it. Usually we just throw stuff away, like we throw trash into a trash can. That's how we get rid of it. But human waste needs to be treated. You can't just dump it somewhere. It contaminates the water, and it's dirty, it's messy, it's smelly, all this type of stuff. So they're trying to figure out how to get rid of it in a clean, safe, and affordable way, because they want to prevent. So when you prevent something, it means you stop it from happening before it happens. So they want to help all these children and prevent them from having any more problems. But a Western toilet. So when we say Western, we're usually talking about like the United States, Canada, Europe, those cultures, those societies. So the toilets that you guys are used to, these are the ones we're talking about. But they use a lot of water, and also you need massive infrastructure. So lots of pipes and lines and plants and everything. It's really huge, and it takes a long time to develop that type of infrastructure. Sewer lines, that's where the waste goes through, like underground, and then it goes to usually a treatment plant where it goes through a bunch of different processes to get treated. That's not feasible. If something isn't feasible, it means it's not possible. You really can't do that in many poor countries. There's not enough money, usually, skill, time, all this type of thing, to be able to create such a massive amount of infrastructure. And so his foundation, that's what he's talking about, his organization, it's a philanthropic nonprofit organization. They put out a call. So to put out a call for something means an organization or a government or a school or somebody says, we want people to do this. And they kind of open it up, and then they receive people's ideas, grant proposals, and people try to answer this call, is what we say. So they put out a call for some new solutions, trying to get people who have know-how, information, technology. How can you solve this problem? How could we solve this problem? And so one of their ideas was to reinvent, to invent again, to rework something, the toilet. And we actually read about that. There's a toilet, a little plastic toilet that they created that goes into the latrines. It's very cheap, and they're using it in India, and he's written about that on his blog. So that was one possibility, for helping out with this problem. Another idea, and the goal of the project I toured, is to reinvent the sewage treatment plant. The project is called the Omniprocessor, and it was designed and built by Janaki Bioenergy, Janaki Bioenergy, an engineering firm based north of Seattle. I recently went to Janaki's headquarters to check out an Omniprocessor before the start of a pilot project in Senegal. The Omni processor is a safe repository for human waste. Today, in many places without modern sewage systems, truckers take the waste from latrines and dump it into the nearest river or the ocean, or at a treatment facility that doesn't actually treat the sewage. Either way, it often ends up in the water supply. If they took it to the Omni processor instead, it would be burned safely. The machine runs at such a high temperature, 1,000 degrees Celsius, that there's no nasty smell. In fact, it meets all the emission standards set by the U.S. government. Okay, David, why don't you go ahead and read those two paragraphs? Oh, Anatoly, hi.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, from another idea to US
Yeah.
government. Okay, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, another idea and the goal of the project I toured is to reinvent the sewage treatment plant. The project is called the Omni Processor, and it was designed to and built by Janicki Bioenergy, an engineering firm based north of Seattle. I recently went to Janicki's headquarters to check out an omniprocessor before the start of a pilot project in Senegal. The omniprocessor is a safe repository of human waste. Today, in many places without modern sewage systems, truckers take the waste from the latrines and dump it into the nearest river or the ocean, or at a treatment facility that doesn't actually treat the sewage. Either way, it often ends up in the water supply. If they took it to the omniprocessor instead, it would be burned safely. The machine runs at such a high temperature, 1000 degrees Celsius, that there's no nasty smell. In fact, it meets all the emission standards set by the US government.
Good. Okay. All right. So he is, the goal of the project. I toured. So that's the verb to tour. So that's where he when you tour something, you look around. So he's just checking it out, looking. They're explaining how it works to him, that kind of thing. These guys. This is the name of their company. It's an engineering firm. Firm is just another word we use to describe a business or a company. So they're here north of Seattle. I live probably pretty close to them, and I haven't heard about them before, though. And a pilot project. So when you do a pilot project, it's a project that you do to kind of test something out before you actually launch it to the public. Maybe you've heard this also, like when you have TV series, like the first year, it's just they maybe do a pilot program, so maybe they make 3 episodes, and then if people like it, then they'll do a regular TV series. But the pilot is what comes first, just to kind of test it, see if it's really going to work. So of course they do all of the testing first somewhere else, and then they're going to do the pilot project in Senegal. So they're actually going to create one of these facilities there and see if it really works, see if it can work in other countries as well. All right, so it's a safe repository for. A repository is where you put something. So it's like a trash can or something, or a bin, just a place where you keep something. So this is what they're doing. They're putting the human waste into the Omni processor. It's a safe thing. It's safe to put it there. He's explaining what usually happens in these countries, places that don't have modern sewage systems like we are used to in our countries, in our cities. Truckers, these are guys who drive the trucks. So the guys driving the trucks, they usually pick up the waste from the latrines and they put it in their trucks, some kind of container they have, and then they oftentimes just dump it into. So that's where they put it. To dump something into something that's where you're unloading it, or that's where you're putting it. And unfortunately, it's in the rivers or the ocean. So that's a bad idea. That's where we have the contamination of the water problem. So they don't actually treat the sewage. Sewage is all of the waste, everything that goes down our drains, even stuff you put down your drain in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the toilet, everything, the bathtubs, showers, that goes into the sewage sewage lines, in a modern infrastructure. But here, they're not even treating it. So even if it does go to some kind of treatment facility, they're not treating it. So either way, no matter what they're doing, if it's ending up in. So to end up in means that's where it goes. The final result is that it's in the water supply. So it's contaminating the water, and that's the concern. That's the health concern. So the machine runs at a high temperature, so it's operated at a high temperature. It's burning at a high temperature, so you don't get any nasty smell. Nasty smell is when you say, oh, gross. So when you have human feces, or if you go by a farm with lots of cows and you smell, it's a nasty smell. That doesn't smell nice. So they're burning it, so you don't get that problem. You don't have a nasty smell. And it meets. So to meet a standard means it's high enough. It's good enough for this standard, and this is a emissions standard. So emissions is what comes out of a plant. If it's a paper mill or any kind of factory, there are some emissions that go into the air, and they have to be clean. They have to meet a certain standard, which is set by the U.S. government. So the U.S. government has set the regulations. They tell what are the standards. Okay, before we even started the tour, I had a question. Don't modern sewage plants already incinerate waste? I learned that some just turn the waste into solids that are stored in the desert. Others burn it using diesel or some other fuel that they buy. That means they use a lot of energy, which makes them impractical in most poor countries. The Omni processor solves that problem. Through the ingenious use of a steam engine, it produces more than enough energy to burn the next batch of waste. In other words, it powers itself with electricity to spare. The next generation processor, more advanced than the one I saw, will handle waste from 100,000 people, producing up to 86,000 liters of potable water a day and a net 250 kilowatts of electricity. Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, Anatoly.
Mhm. Before we even started the tour, I had a question.
Yes.
Don't modern sewage plants already incinerate waste? I learned that some just turn the waste into solids and that are stored in the desert. Others burn it using diesel or some other fuel that they buy. That means they use a lot of energy, which makes them impractical in most poor countries. The omniprocessor solves that problem. Through the ingenious use of a steam engine, it produces more than enough energy to burn the next batch of waste. In other words, it powers itself, with electricity to spare. The next generation processor, more advanced than the one I saw, will handle a waste from 100,000 people, producing up to 86,000 liters of potable water a day and a net 215 kilowatt
Kilowatts.
of electricity.
Good. Okay, so incinerate means to burn. So he's, asking, well, don't we already do this? Don't we burn waste already? And the answer, of course, is yes. Some sewage plants do that. That's one way to treat waste, but they just turn the waste, the human feces, the waste, the kitchen scraps, whatever is in there, into solids. So something that's solid. So like looks like dirt or something like that. And then they just store it in the desert. So then they put it in some kind of desert location. That's the idea there. But this, they use diesel fuel or some other type of fuel that they have to buy to do this. So they use a lot of energy, a lot of power. They need to spend money to buy diesel fuel or other kind of fuel, and that's not very practical for poor countries. So impractical means not practical. It's not really feasible. That's the other word he used, feasible. It means it's not really possible. It's not a good solution. Again, the word ingenious just meaning, some amazing new innovative way of doing something. So they created this ingenious way of using a steam engine. Steam is what happens when you're boiling water, and then it looks like the smoke, but that's steam. It's the water vapor, and it produces enough energy even just through that to burn the next batch of waste. The next batch is like the next pile, the next amount of waste that's coming onto the conveyor belt. And we're going to watch the video, so we'll see this happen. And then it produces so much electricity that they even have more to spare, which means they have leftover energy which they can use for something else. So it's creating this electricity that they can use. And it's amazing. From 100,000 people, you can get this many liters of water per day. So water a day or per day. And remember, potable means drinkable. You can drink it. It's safe and clean to drink. If we get it right, it will be a good example of how philanthropy can provide seed money that draws bright people to work on big problems, eventually creating a self-supporting industry. Our foundation is funding Janaki to do the development. It's really amazing to see how they've embraced the work. Founder Peter Janaki and his family have traveled to Africa and India multiple times so they can see the scope of the problem. Our goal is to make the processors cheap enough that entrepreneurs in low and middle income countries will want to invest in them and then start profitable waste treatment businesses. Okay, Leszek.
If we get it right, it will be a good example of how philanthropy can provide seed money that draws bright people to work on big problems, eventually creating a self-supporting industry. Our foundation is funding Janicki to the development. It's really amazing to see how they embraced the work. Founder Peter Janicki and his family have traveled to Africa and India multiple times so they can see the scope of the problem. Our goal is to make the processors cheap enough that entrepreneurs
Entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurs in low and middle income countries will want to invest in them and then start profitable waste treatment business.
Good. Okay, if we get it right. So if you get something right, then it means you did a good job. You figured out, and it's a good solution. So he's just saying, if this really works, this is going to be an example of how philanthropy. So philanthropy means when a wealthy person gives money to support something, like a program or development or something like that. So his organization is a philanthropic organization. So it gives money to different organizations, different companies to, try to create solutions for different problems. And so what he does, what his organization does, is they provide what they call seed money. So when you think of seeds, you plant a seed in the ground, right? And then something grows. So that's the same idea. You give a certain amount of money to get something started. He's not going to, pay for everything for the rest of the time, but he's going to get it started. So that amount of seed money gets the project started. It draws, which means it attracts bright people, bright meaning intelligent, smart, crafty, ingenious type of people who want to work on these problems. So they give them some money to get started, and then they get to work. And of course, eventually, they want to be able to create a self-supporting industry, so that the organization isn't always going to support this project. It's going to turn into a self-supporting. So it becomes a business that can work as a business rather than needing constant funding from the foundation. That's the idea. So his funding, that just means the money. So the foundation is funding or giving money to Janaki to be able to develop this. He says it's really amazing to see how they've embraced the work. An embrace is like a hug, but in this case, it's like how you really take on the work. You really get involved in it, and you take it on as your own project. So they're really taking this on, embracing the project, the work. His family has traveled multiple times, just means often, many times, so that they can understand, they can see the scope of the problem. The scope is like how big it is, what it involves. So if you have a scope of the problem, you understand all the different parts of it, or the scope of the work, or the scope of a project. It just tells you like all the bigger picture. You want to see the bigger picture. And the processors are just something that processes something else. So this is like the facility, the actual thing that's doing this work. They want to make them cheap. Entrepreneurs is always a hard word for people to say, but we use it a lot nowadays, especially in the United States, where we try to encourage entrepreneurs. And so that's the idea, create something and then let people invest in it, and they can make their money doing that. So it can become a profitable waste treatment business. So a person or a company, a group of people can invest in this technology in their own countries and make a business out of it to make money. We still have a lot to learn before we get to that point. The next step is the pilot project later this year. Janaki will set up an Omni processor in Dakar, Senegal, where they'll study everything from how you connect with the local community. The team is already working with leaders there, to how you pick the most convenient location. They will also test one of the coolest things I saw on my tour, a system of sensors and webcams that will let Janaki's engineers control the processor remotely and communicate with the team in Dakar so they can diagnose any problems that come up. Okay, Anna.
We still have a lot to learn before we get to that point. The next steps is the pilot project. Later this year, Janaki will set up an omniprocessor in Dakar, Senegal, where they'll study everything from how you connect with the local community. The team is already working with leaders there to how you pick the most convenient location. They will also test one of the coolest things I saw on my tour, a system of sensors and webcams that will let Janiki's engineers control the processor remotely and communicate with the team in Dakar so they can diagnose any problem that come up.
Okay, so the next step, the next thing that they're going to do, of course, is the pilot project. And they have to do a lot of things. They have to figure out a lot of stuff. So they're going to study everything, and we say it like this: from blah, blah, blah to. So from one thing to another thing. So to kind of describing the scope of what they're going to have to study. So they have to figure out how to connect with people, how do we educate and connect with the local community to make this a success, and also how do we pick, or how do we choose the most convenient location. So where is the best place to put this type of facility so that it gets used and it helps the local community. Also, being a tech guy, Bill Gates, he liked the idea of these sensors, so types of technology that sense things, and web cams, so cameras, And that's going to be a cool thing because it helps the engineers back here in the United States remotely operate or control and communicate with the people who are actually in Dakar, to diagnose, to figure out if there's a problem, and then help them solve the problem. So the engineers back here, who they're the experts in this technology, they can do it remotely, so they don't have to fly to Senegal and try to figure out what's happening. They can use these sensors and the webcams to do that. That come up, that appear, that happen. Things will come up, and they have to figure out a way to diagnose and fix it. The history of philanthropy is littered with well-intentioned inventions that never deliver on their promise. Hopefully, these early steps will help us make sure the omniprocessor doesn't join the list. If things go well in Senegal, we'll start looking for partners in the developing world. For example, I think it could be a great fit in India, where there are lots of entrepreneurs who could own and operate the processors, as well as companies with the skill to manufacture many of the parts. Okay, Adrian.
The history of philanthropy is littered with well-intentioned inventions that never deliver on their promise. Hopefully, this early step will help us make sure the omniprocessor doesn't join the list. If things go well in Senegal, we'll start looking for partners in the developing world. For example, I think it could be a great fit in India, where there are lots of entrepreneurs
Entrepreneurs.
who could own and operate the processor, as well as companies with the skill to manufacture many of the parts.
Okay, good. All right. So, littered with. So if something is littered with, it means it's kind of populated by or scattered. So you find a lot. So, the history of philanthropy, giving away money, you find a lot of well-intentioned inventions. Well-intentioned mean you had a good idea, you had a good cause, you really wanted to help, but they don't necessarily deliver on their promise. So a lot of good ideas, but they don't really work out. A lot of good inventions, but they don't really work in the end, finally. So he hopes that this omniprocessor doesn't join that list, the list of well-intentioned inventions that didn't work, basically. So he hopes it's just another way to say, I hope it works. You don't know. It's a new technology, a new idea. Maybe they can use it in India. It would be a great fit. A great fit means it will be, it could be useful in India. It could be a good match is another way to say that, And they have a lot of entrepreneurs in India who would probably want to own and operate these processors as a business. And they have other companies in India where people already have the skill, the knowledge to manufacture many of the parts. So it's already possible in India that people could, know how to work on these things, manufacture parts for the facility, that type of thing. It might be many years before the processor is being used widely, but I was really impressed with Janaki's engineering, and I'm excited about the business model. The processor wouldn't just keep human waste out of the drinking water, it would turn waste into a commodity with real value in the marketplace. It's the ultimate example of that old expression, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Okay, David.
It might be many years before the processor is being used widely. But I was really impressed with Janik's engineering, and I'm excited about the business model. The processor wouldn't just keep human waste out of the drinking water. It would turn waste into a commodity with real value in the marketplace. It's the ultimate example of that old expression, One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So it might be, many years before. So, there's going to be a lot of testing and trying it out and building them and stuff like that. So it's going to be a while before it gets used widely. Widely means, in many different places. But he's excited about the business model. So the business model is, how can you make this into a business? What is the business going to be? How will it make money? That kind of thing. Because it's not just about keeping the waste out of the drinking water, keeping it from contaminating the water, but you actually can turn it into a commodity. So you take the waste and then you make a commodity out of it, which is the water. So it's something you can sell. A commodity is something you sell, like a product, in the marketplace. So people will buy clean water. So he says it's the ultimate example. Like the ultimate means the best. This is like the best example of an expression, an old expression. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So whatever you want to get rid of, somebody else values and wants it. So I was thinking we could watch quickly. It's only just about 2 minutes. I'm going to have to put it up in the YouTube thing here. So if you guys open your YouTube app on the side there, we can watch this together really quickly. So it'll help you understand kind of the technology, what's happening, how it works, because it's pretty cool. And then we'll have a couple of minutes to talk about it, not too much. Does everybody have their apps open? I think you guys all know how to do that. So just open your YouTube app on the left side, and then you'll be able to watch this. And I will have to use my group chat if anybody has a thing. David, okay, guys. So what do you think about this? Leszek?
I think that is true, really true, and really practice system.
Practical system?
Yeah, practical system, but it's not the new idea. Yeah, I
No?
know that yeah. I know that U.S. Army also use some similar system.
Oh.
Maybe not impressive, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not produce electricity, but only clean, just to clean water, yeah.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
also useful, yeah. It's still
Uh-huh.
useful.
Cool. Yeah, I
But why
didn't hear
not?
about that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I wouldn't have known how to do that. So these engineers, they know something I don't know. Anna, what do you think about this idea? Would you have any concerns about drinking that water, or would it be okay?
Should be okay. I think that is okay.
Okay. Anna, what do you think?
If a person tell me that the water is okay, why not?
If they guarantee that it's okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. What about
What's
you?
more, I think.
What,
Sorry,
Liz?
sorry,
Go ahead.
Lisa. I think that the guys tested this water outside the machine, yeah, many times before they give Bill Gates to taste it, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It's so
Yeah,
many expensive business, yeah. will be
right.
yeah, will be come down, yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. My question is the facility, it still didn't look like a very cheap facility, but maybe in comparison to the other infrastructure, like of a sewage system or something. But I don't know. It's still going. I wonder how much it actually costs to build the facility. They didn't really talk about that.
Yeah, this
Let's.
is main question.
Yeah.
How the price is now, yeah?
Right.
Now, but if many countries won't buy it, maybe the cost will be increased, yeah. But who knows,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and always when you're doing something for the first time, it's more expensive, and then you learn how to make it cheaper and cheaper.
Uh-huh.
So eventually, maybe it will be affordable for somebody to invest, I don't know, $100,000, $200,000, and then how many bottles of water will you have to create before you make money? So that kind of idea. What do you think, Adrian? Is it a good idea?
Yeah, it is interesting. Also, it's compact
Mm-hmm.
and small. Yes, it's only maybe it need a logistic
Mm-hmm.
to supply the waste. No?
Yeah, some kind of system, logistical system. How do you get waste from a community? Let's say 100,000 people. Where do who picks up the waste, or how does it get to the
Yeah,
facility? So yeah, certainly a lot of different components, we can say, different aspects of the system. How to make it work. So that's what they're going to do in Senegal, because they're trying it out just in Washington, where I guess they're getting stuff. It's easier here, but how does it really work in a poor community where maybe that stuff is not so easy to organize? David, what do you have any comments about it? We have 2 minutes left until my next class.
Okay, it's a little bit weird. Maybe
A little
I
bit.
need, yeah, 2 or 3 days to delete from my head the idea. Okay, what I'm gonna drink is it was a piece of poo, so it's like shocking at the first moment. But I
Yeah.
have two concerns. The first one is what kind of gases are
Mhm.
exposing or leaking to the atmosphere.
The
Because
missions, yeah.
for instance, in the cow's poo,
Hmm.
there are a lot of methane,
Yes, methane,
which
yeah.
is very dangerous for the atmosphere.
Yeah. Hmm.
My other concern is maybe what they are drinking or Bill Gates was drinking in the video is only H2O, and
Yes.
this is not exactly what we drink every day. I mean, when we buy water in a supermarket or we drink from the pipes,
Mm.
uh, we are not drinking only H2O. There are salts and other components that we need. So maybe
Mm.
they need to add some components, some salts
Salt
or
or something.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But
Minerals, yeah.
anyway,
Uh-huh.
this is a little comment. But the most
Uh-huh.
important maybe it's what kind of gases are thrown into
Hmm.
the air.
Yeah.
But it obviously is a good idea. Obviously.
Yeah. Anatoly, did you want to make a comment? What did you think about it?
I think it needs time for preparing
Yeah.
of this process. I can agree it is practically useful, but
Uh-huh.
maybe
it is difficult to step off the barrier using this technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea, and we'll see. And that's what Bill Gates said basically in the end was, a lot of good ideas start out as a good idea, a good invention, but they don't work out in the end. So we'll have to see. We'll see if it can really work in the real world. So there's one thing from like the laboratory or the shop where you're inventing to the real world application, see if it really works or not. So who knows? We'll see. Okay, guys, I got to go to my next class, which is we're going to be listening to some songs and going over the lyrics and explaining what the heck they're saying. So maybe I'll see you there. If not, have a good weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank you.